think it's about understanding that those things are important. You're not just talking to the parent because you want to get out of washing the paint pots. It's really significant that you actually spend that time with families. And I think when children see you engaged with their families and you're seeing that respect that comes across, I think then children feel that sense of belonging much more keenly than if they see a very superficial relationship between educators and families.
Thinking about the show that Lucas Proudfoot actually did with your service, when we're looking at that aspect of cultural competency from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspective, the important, I suppose, was Lucas is from your region. So he's a person that has a history with the Tweed Coast. He was brought up there, his parents are there. They have the history and the connection with the Fingal area. So that's the first step in that practice of relationship. Sometimes it's interesting where services begin their process, with the journey of cultural competency. But with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, there seems to be a fear from educators about, this is so big, I don't know what part to start with, and I'm a little bit frightened.
Oh, I'd agree, and I think, I mean, we've been through those kind of discussions at Kowloon, and I guess we're really privileged to be able to work with you and Lucas in furthering our work around cultural competence, and it certainly for us is one big part of our quality improvement plan, because it does impact on our program with children. It does impact on our relationships with children. It does impact on our partnerships with family and community. And I think there's also leadership in there as well, to even from a budgetary point of view, to allow those things to happen, to give us time to really explore in great depth and understand the history of what happened prior to colonisation, and for all of our educators to really understand what that is and what that means for all of us. And I guess the privileges that we have to now the place where Kowloon sits, for example. And so I think we've got a big job to understand that ourselves and come to terms with it and ask ourselves some tough questions. And for some staff, as we've already discovered, this is much easier than for other staff. You know, some staff, I guess it really worries me about some of their comments, and I know as the leader in our service, I've got some work to do. But I also know that I've got a community out there that can support me, because I guess I've been there a while and I know who to ask, and perhaps not be fearful, because I think sometimes we do nothing because we're fearful of doing the wrong thing, and I think we have to stop it. And I think the Early Years Learning Framework really expects us to do better than what we've done in the past. And it doesn't mean we won't still do things around NAIDOC Day or week or all the other days that we can celebrate for different cultures, but it means we have to do better than just some painting experience or just get in a song and dance act. We have to do some research beforehand, and we have to do some research afterwards and really engage children in that thinking.
Yeah. And I suppose Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture in Australia, it has a unique part.
Sure.
I don't necessarily know whether or not the history of Australia has acknowledged that we have one of the oldest living cultures in the world here.
Now hands up if you want to have a go and tell me what you reckon it's called. What you reckon? Nice and quiet, one at a time. What do you reckon? A didgeridoo, that's quiet, but the real name for this instrument is called yidaki. Can you say yidaki? Yidaki. Another name they call it, in Western Arnhem Land, they call it magu. Can you say magu? Magu. Now the didgeridoo, okay, see this map of Australia? All these colours represent all the different Aboriginal tribes in Australia. So right up here, this is where the didgeridoo is originally from the Arnhem Land region, and it belongs to the Yolngu people and the people of Western Arnhem Land up there. Okay, if we get a line and we go across here, these are some of the areas where it was traditionally played. It's been up there for many thousands of years. Okay, So the instrument, the didgeridoo, belongs to the Yolngu people, and up there they call it yidaki. Can you say yidaki? Okay. But down in this beautiful region down here, we're in the beautiful Bundjalung region down here, and the didgeridoo wasn't traditionally played in this area, but through different stories, and I've been told that it's been made its way down here through trade. So all the different tribes used to trade all different tools
because
and
of
through these
past
regions.
policies
Now,
and
and
processes that have been passed down from government to government to government have actually stopped that exploration of the wonderfulness and the beautiful culture that it is. I can see now in early childhood education the reluctance of families because of the past policies and procedures. We're actually seeing, and I don't think anyone today would suggest that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander isn't complex. Some of the, the issues that we're dealing with health and education and child protection, but it doesn't sit in isolation. Like people can say, people just need to get over it, but there's some very real problems that haven't just come because people like drugs or alcohol or substance abuse. They've actually come from a history, and so I believe for early childhood services really to undergo some transformative change, they actually have to develop a really sound understanding of everything.
I'd agree, and I think until we do that work, we're really not going to move forward. And I guess that's why in the workshop, that exercise that you did where you got people to list the 5 things that were most important to them and then take those away gradually, I think was really significant for people to then really reflect what it must have been like for those families, and how some of that will never go away and they can't get over it because it's part of who they are. And I think until we all as educators really understand that, we're not going to move forward very quickly, if at all. So that would be my starting point for people to do that exercise amongst their own staff team and then have long conversations, because this isn't something that's going to be fixed overnight. It's a really long-term thing. I mean, our quality improvement plan, I would imagine, will go on forever.
Yeah.
Because I think, as you said earlier, it is about who we are and what we know and what our experiences are. And that informs who we are. But that doesn't mean we can't be open to new ways of thinking and new ways of doing. And I think that's what the Early Years Learning Framework is really asking us to do. And we must.
Yeah.
Because the history of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this country is part of all the things that we have now, and we mustn't forget that. So we do have to start, and start tomorrow.
On your 5 sheets of paper, what I want you to do is on each individual sheet, I would like you to write down something that you strongly identify with in your life, that gives your life a sense of purpose, that gives you your sense of identity and structure. Your sense of purpose, the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. Who's got 5? Everyone? Is anyone feeling confident enough to share the 5 things within the group situation? Yes?
Okay. I'm Swiss, so connected with Switzerland, my family, dance, nature and my mother.
And I have decided one of my first policies that I'm actually going to do is that you need to give up one of your things. Was that difficult? If I said to you now, which I want you to give up a 3rd thing, what is the general sense of me saying to you, I now want you to give up something 3rd? You'd leave. Who said they'd leave?
And it's quite interesting when people often hear when I'm out and about in services, just people say, well, why do we have to? Like the question is always, why? And I think if we've missed, something's happened that we've actually missed linking the importance of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture into, we haven't embedded it into the Australian society as such. So we're actually now really, I would suggest, if we identify that we've got to take such a big step before we can go any further. there's a big step that has to be taken back, if that makes sense. For us to progress, we've got to go way back.
But I think as educators, we've got a responsibility now to say, I need to know more. And I think if that's all anybody was going to do in the short term, that would be better than nothing. To say, I don't know enough to be culturally competent in my service. We need some education and some professional learning. So I think sometimes those things are awkward for educators, so they perhaps don't address them instead of thinking, this is a wonderful learning opportunity for everybody, and to involve the parents.
How much do you actually feel on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no, absolutely nothing, 10 meaning I'm absolutely perfect and no lights, about Aboriginal Australia culture prior to colonisation? Throw some one. Anyone go above a 1? Okay. 2, maybe a 2. So that probably suggests that we've got, as educators, probably a long way to go in how we work and respect and think about cultural competency and embed that practice of relationship with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture into our early childhood services.
Sometimes we don't do that as well, and you know, so that's a way of communicating to parents about what happened today, and this is the discussion, this is where it led, and that you might like to have further discussions around these kind of topics at home. So it's not that awkward silence, or we don't talk about that here, but it's about getting children to think a little bit more, and for families to think, well, where did that come from maybe, and to talk about it.
And it's actually about that acknowledgement and celebrating of differences instead of saying, some people, when you ask them about cultural competency, say, yeah, we're culturally competent, we include, everyone's the same, we include everyone the same. That's not, I don't believe what cultural competency is about. Cultural competency is about seeing the differences, acknowledging the difference, celebrating the differences, and bringing all the difference and the diversity in so that it all forms a wonderful, rich learning environment for us as educators, for the children, for the parents, for everyone, that mutual exchange, mutual learning.
And I guess that's when educators really need to reflect and think about, like, in an experience like that, how well did I do?
Yeah.
Could I have done something differently? Yeah. So then talk to their colleagues and have those professional conversations. You know, this is what Jeremy brought up in group today. Have you heard the other children talking about these matters? How can we make that part of our everyday practice at the service, rather than thinking it's something we hold off for when, or even address it when a child brings it up, instead of saying, you know, let's talk about some big ideas for children. How do we get children to think about the ideas about reconciliation?
Yeah.
How much do we know about it ourselves, and it's in our hearts and minds to actually say, it's really important that we begin these conversations with children so that we're instigating those things. So it's, I mean, it's great to follow children's interests, but I think sometimes there are things like reconciliation that we as educators do have obligations to talk to children about and have those conversations.